Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to do this beautiful granny spike stitch. It's a beautiful little stitch. It's really quick to crochet and it's very much like the granny stitch, but you do one spike stitch down into the row below. Now I've done this in a variegated yarn. I use this Hayfield Spirit yarn. It's a double knitting, but you can do this in individual colours. It's up to you. I used this because I thought it was a great way to show you how it looks with actually different colours. It's really pretty in that lemon. I love it in that lemon. You can do this in any variation you want. You can do it in strips of colour, and then just cut the colour off and start a new colour. You can do it in variegated yarn like I have, or you can just do it all in the one colour. I think it will make a beautiful textured blanket all done in the one colour, especially if it was in that lemon. And if you've got a new baby on the way, this would be beautiful done in white for a newborn. It's a really pretty stitch. It's lovely. Now I've done mine 32 sets of 4. So your stitch count is 4 and I've done 32 sets to get this size of blanket. Now this is big enough to fit over a little car seat cover, a Moses basket, or one of those little carry car seats for your child, even just a little comfort cuddle blanket. It's a beautiful stitch and you can make it any size you like. Now I used a UK 4.5mm crochet hook for this, but you can use any size of hook. I'll show you how to finish off the last row so it's all nice and even, and I've done a little granny cluster. I'll show you how to do that. I've done a little granny cluster down the sides. I'll show you how to do that as well. So let's go on, and I'm going to show you today how to do the granny spike stitch. So I'm going to show you how to do this stitch with this Hayfield Spirit yarn. I'm using a UK 4.5mm crochet hook. It's a 4.5. That's what it tells you to use on the label. So the stitch count for this is 4. So I'm going to do a slip knot. Just pull my yarn through. Onto my hook. And I'm going to do my chain in sets of 4. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now do your chain as long as you want it to be. So I've done a small sample of the chain. So what you're going to do now is you're going to put 2 UK treble crochets into the 4th stitch in the chain. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're going to put 2 UK treble crochets. If you're in the USA, this is a double crochet for you. So just go into there. It's 1, and 1 more into the same stitch. That's 2. So that little chain you've got there is your 3rd stitch. So you're going to chain 1 stitch, and you're going to skip 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. And into this 4th stitch, you're going to put 3 treble crochets. 3 UK treble crochets. And if you're in the USA, that's double crochets for you. 1, 2 and 3. Chain 1, skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th stitch you're going to do your granny cluster again. You're going to do that all the way along. 1 into the same stitch, that's 2, and a 3rd one into that same stitch. Chain 1, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and do a cluster. Then you'll chain 1, you'll skip 3, do a cluster, chain 1, skip 3 stitches and do a cluster all the way to the end. So I've got 4 stitches left. I've done my chain 1. I'm going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the last stitch I'm going to put my 3 treble crochets into that last stitch. Two and my 3rd one. And this is what we've got, a little line of little granny squares. And my yellow's turning to orange. Now you can, if you want, change your colour. Just snip it off and start with another colour if you like. So now we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. That counts as your 3 chain as 1 treble and your chain 1. You're going to turn your work. So we've done our chain of 4. That counts as 1 treble crochet and 1 chain. We're going into the chain space between the clusters. You're going to put a UK treble crochet into this space. Now down in the foundation row you've got 3 stitches. Remember you skipped 3 stitches. Into the middle one, into the 1 to the 2nd stitch, in that foundation chain where you skipped 3, you're going to put a treble crochet. So yarn over and go down to that stitch. Push your hook right through. Now pull your stitch up, yarn over and finish your treble crochet. Now into the space, it's the same chain space, go into that space and do a treble crochet. Chain 1 and move to the next chain space. Put 1 treble crochet, go down to the foundation chain and into the middle stitch. You've got 1, 2, 3. You're going into the middle one and put a treble crochet in. Pull through, pull your stitch up, and then into the chain space, make sure you're using the chain space, put a treble crochet. So you're building your little spiked granny stitch in the chain spaces. And that's your little spiked granny stitch there. That one drops down in the middle. On the next row we'll be working in these chain spaces and we'll be using the middle stitch in this granny cluster. So chain 1 and move to the next space. Treble crochet, then do your next one down into the middle stitch in that foundation chain. Push your hook through, pull the stitch up, and then into the chain space, the same chain space, and do a treble crochet. Chain 1 to the next chain space, in the chain space do your treble crochet, Then we'll do our next treble crochet in that foundation chain. In the middle stitch, 1, 2, 3, we're going into stitch number 2. Down here in this foundation chain. Just push your hook through. And then back into the same chain space, it's the same chain space, do a treble crochet. Chain 1 and do that all the way to the end. A little bit fiddly, but once we've got this row done, we'll be fine. Chain 1, and you've got your 3 on the end here. So count 1, 2, 3 stitches. Oops. Yarn over and count 1, 2, 3 stitches up on that last one. And this is what you have. You've got your little spike stitch going down into the foundation chain, and you've got 1 stitch either side of it. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn your work. So that chain of 3 counts as your first treble crochet. So what you're going to do now is you've got 1, 2, and 3 stitches. Into the top of that second one, you're going to do a treble crochet. So yarn over and go down into the top of that stitch. Just in through there, pull through, look, hang up there, pull your stitch up and finish your treble crochet. So you're going to do that little spike down into that cluster. So you skip that first stitch and do your treble crochet in the top of that middle one. Now into the chain space, you'll do a treble crochet. Chain 1, and we're going to work our way like we did down here. Into the chain space, 1 treble crochet. It's a UK treble crochet. And you've got your cluster of 3, so into the middle one, into the top of the middle stitch, you'll do a treble crochet. Pull your stitch up, and that's you creating a little spike stitch down into that cluster. And then put your next one in the chain space again. So you're doing your little granny cluster in the chain spaces. So chain 1, 1 treble crochet into the chain space, 1 treble crochet into the middle stitch of that cluster, into that middle stitch, pull it up, and 1 treble crochet into the same chain space. Then chain 1 and move along to the next chain space. And this is what creates your little spike stitches. Chain 1, and at the end you're going to put 1 in to the chain space, 1 into that middle stitch down there again. So you're going through that stitch, right through, pull it through, and your last one is going into the 3rd stitch in that chain. So count 1, 2, and then 3 into that stitch in that chain, right through the middle of it, trying to get 2 strands of that stitch. It looks neater when you catch 2 strands, and do your treble crochet. And this is what you get. So again, you're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your treble crochet in your chain 1. Now you're going to skip these stitches and go into the first space. These are the 2 rows you'll keep repeating. this row and this chain 4 and then in to here. That's what lets you stagger over. So in there you do your treble crochet, then go down into that granny cluster, into the middle, into that middle stitch, pull up, and then go into the chain space again. Just pull that stitch across so you can see that chain. Then chain 1 into the next chain space and do your spike cluster. Go down through there and up, pull it back and get your chain space again. Chain 1 and do the next one. Just remember, when you do your granny cluster, your middle stitch goes down into the row below. You've got 3 stitches, you miss 1, you're going into that middle one, right through the stitch, pull through, and then 1 into the chain space. Once you get the hang of this, you're going to love it. And so I'm going to work my way along to the end, and I'll show you how to do this space again. So I'm at the end again, and I've done my chain 1. Remember and do your chain 1. So 1 treble crochet into the chain space, 1 treble crochet down into the middle stitch. You've got 3 down here, so you're going into the middle, the top of that middle, and pull through. So you're using that 3rd stitch, that middle stitch, and then you're going to count 1, 2, 3 stitches in that chain and put a treble crochet into the 3rd stitch. 1, 2, 3. And that makes your last little spike. And this is what you get. So for the next row, you'll be using these chain spaces. So chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your first treble crochet and a chain 1. Turn your work. Now you need to skip over these stitches and go into the space and start your next row. And you'll work your way along to this end. You'll do your cluster, chain 1, and then just do a chain 3 into the end. So I'm at the end again and I've done my chain 1. You're just going to put a treble crochet in to the top of that last stitch there. So count 1, 2, 3. 3 stitches, you're going in to that chain. So this is what you have on the end here. So here you'll do a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn. So that counts as your first treble crochet, and you're going in to the middle stitch down there. And then into the chain space. Do your chain 1 and move to the next one. And do your little spike cluster. Go down to that middle stitch there. And into the chain space all the way to the end. So for one row, you'll start with a chain of 3, and the next row is a chain of 4 that you start. And that staggers your little boxes, and it staggers your stitches. So I've done a chain 3, and what we're going to do to finish off this blanket. So when we get to a chain space like this, we're going to do the normal little cluster. So into the top of that one, and then into the chain space with a treble crochet. So this is when you want to finish your blanket. Now this group here, into the middle stitch, I'm going to do a treble crochet. Don't do any chain 1. Don't chain 1. So when you go from here to here, don't do a chain 1. We're going straight over here to do that little spike cluster again, and then down into the row below, and then 1 into the chain space. No chain, don't do any chains. Go into the middle of this cluster and do 1 treble crochet into the top stitch of that cluster. And then we'll go into this space and do the spike cluster, just as normal, but don't do any chains over. Now into the top of a stitch, you're going through the top of a stitch like that to create that spike. And then 1 into the chain space. No chains, just go into the middle of that cluster there and do a treble crochet. This is how I finished this blanket off. Then do your spike cluster in this chain space here. Do not do any chains, no chain 1s, and then into the chain space. Then over into the middle of this one, do a treble crochet, and then you'll do your cluster, and that makes your top nice and even like that. We'll do that all the way along till I get to the end here, and I'll show you what to do next. So this is how the top of the blanket looks like. I've put the spike stitch in the normal place, and I put 1 treble crochet into the top of the ones that are there. No chains this time on this last row. So I'm at the end, so I'm going to make a corner. I'm going to put, I've done my last spike pattern in here. I'm going to put 2 treble crochets in to this corner, just to bring me around. Now what I'm going to do, into each of the long stitches that are here, I'm going to put a treble crochet. So I've got my spike stitch, I've put 2 in there. It looks like I've got 3, but one of those belongs to my spike stitch. So into the long part of the stitch, not that little space there, I'm going to put 3 treble crochets. I'm going to work a little granny stitch down the side here. 1, 2 and 3. So at the corner you've got your spike stitch. There's 2 extra in the corner just to bring you round. And then we're doing your 3 cluster granny stitch. Just miss out that single stitch there and go straight to the longer stitch and put your granny cluster in. That's 3 treble crochets. 1, 2, got my yarn stuck, and 3. Going over to the next long stitch. Get my yarn stuck in there. So miss out these little square parts here and go into the longer stitch. There's a long stitch there. and do your granny cluster. 1, 2, just a normal granny cluster. 3, move to the next long stitch. So just skip these little square ones out. I mean, it's up to you how you do the sides. You can just be imaginative. And that's what I'm going to do all the way down the side. When I get to the bottom, I'll put 1 in this bottom stitch, and then I'm just going to move around to these long stitches here, and I'm going to do the same thing. So you've got a long stitch and a cluster. You can even put it in the bottom of the cluster there. So I'll work my way down to this corner, and I'll show you how to get around the corner and how to do the bottom here. So I've put my granny stitches all the way down the side. Now at the very corner, I'm just going to put 2 in at the corner, just to bring me around. I'm only going to put 2 in there. If I put 3 in, it'll be too cluttered. I'll work that tail in along there. So what I'm going to do is, just at the beginning of each spike, that's where I'm going to put my granny stitches. I'm going to bring that tail in. And 3. I'm going to move along. So I've put this one in front of that spike. I'm going to put 1 in here, just like we did at the top. You just might need to push through that little cluster. Put 1 treble crochet in there. Then move to the space next to the spike and put 3 treble crochets in. That'll keep the bottom the same or very similar to the top. And 3. The weight of my blanket is pulling off my knee. So there's my next cluster. I'm just going to put 1 treble crochet in to that cluster and move to the square next to the spike stitch and put my next little granny cluster in. That's 3 UK treble crochets. And 3. And there's my next big cluster. I'm going to put 1 treble crochet into there. And I'll do that all the way along. And it's going to look very similar to the top, because that's what the top's like. The top's got your 3, then 1, then 3, then 1. But we did a spike stitch, remember, because that'll be the top. You need the top nice. I've got my granny stitches down the side, and then doing my little granny clusters along. So I've got 1 in there, so into the next box beside that little spike stitch there, I'll put my next granny cluster, and I'll do that all the way along. And 3. No chains, we'll just move along to the next cluster here and put 1 treble crochet in. Move to the box next to the next spike. 1, 2, and 3. Move to the next set there, put 1 in, and then move to the next box where the spike is, and we'll put 3 in. and this is what it's looking like along the bottom. When I get to the corner, I'll put my extra 2 stitches in the corner. We'll just keep doing that little granny cluster and then 1. We'll put 2 in the corner just to bring me around, and we're back to these long stitches where we'll do the granny stitch in the long part of these sections here. I'll do that all the way up, and that should finish me off at the top. So I finished all the way around my blanket. I put the little granny clusters up sides, and this is what my little blanket looks like. It's really pretty. It's a really pretty stitch, so give it a try. I'm sure you're going to love it. It's really quick to crochet as well. Now, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. If you just click on that subscribe button, it is free to subscribe to the channel. And if you click on the bell icon, then YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. Now remember, the stitch count for this is 4. Make as many sets of 4 as you want, and then start the pattern. And just repeat the 2 rows that I've shown you how to do, and you'll get this beautiful, beautiful granny spike stitch. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.